motorsport, not just in Australia, but globally for that matter. So it's a series with some very cool cars, some great talent in the front line and behind the scenes, and races within the race too. Richard, we need to sort of give you an overview sense of what to expect in our second race of the weekend.
Well, this is how Fanatec GT World Challenge Australia plays out, as you said, races within races. You can tell which class is which by the colour on our timing totem, top left of screen. So Pro and Am, and then there's an Am class, and the trophy series is for older model cars, and Scotty Taylor doing a really good job in that this weekend in his Porsche 911 GT3R. Schedule, this is race number 2. There was a second qualifying session where all the pro drivers went out and had a proper crack, and it set a really interesting grid. 60-minute race. The highest ranked driver must start. So all the pros will start this race. The AM drivers will finish, and there's a pit stop window in the middle. It opens at 25 minutes, closes at 35 minutes. You must complete your compulsory pit stop in that time. The minimum pit stop is 106 seconds, but there's penalty applied. So if you win yesterday, like Prince Jeffrey Ibrahim and Shane Van Gisbergen did, you add 15 seconds to that. So you're sitting in the lane for 123 seconds. That's how it plays out, and it had a massive role in yesterday's race. This is the field. It's Mercedes versus AMG predominantly, the two most successful brands in GT3 racing since the category's inception, coming up on 2 decades ago now. Shaheen and Tander, the defending champions in the category and ones to beat, but you never count out someone like Paul Stokel in one of these cars. Liam Talbot and Fraser Ross, a really good combination, really solid. David Reynolds has been particularly fast as well, driving the Bostik Racing and AFS car with Tony Bates. And we're looking forward to seeing how this plays out. Chris Stubbs, it's scene is set for a really cool motor race this afternoon.
Loving this. Richard Crail, Garth Tander, Shane Van Gisbergen, Dave Reynolds starting in this one. 3 Bathurst champions. Garth Tander in the car here with the number 1 on the door. His co-driver for the race again is Yasser Shaheen. Yasser, are you racing today? What's going on?
Yeah, we're trying to keep the heart rate down for as long as possible. Everything seems to get a whole heap more serious once we put the suit on.
Tell us in terms of the difference in the pit stop times, which the guys have just talked us through, but tyres also potentially playing a role for the David Reynolds car, Yasser.
Yeah, look, I don't know how much the viewers understand this, but you get a success penalty every race, depending on whether you win or not. So the Prince and Shane will have 15 seconds today. We'll have 10, and Liam and Fraser will have 5. But David will have nothing. So depending on where he comes in, I've got to go chasing. It'll be very, very interesting to see these boys stick together. And we're running used tyres because we used our set in quali. And I think we've got Fraser and we've got Shane on green. So it's all going to be very interesting.
There you go. So sit back, boys, and watch this one play out.
It should be close. Thank you. That's a good tip there from someone right in the mix. Yasser Shaheen talking with our Chris Stubbs. And just like his brother Sam, who we saw a little bit earlier in Porsche Michelin Sprint Challenge, Yasser, a very competitive human being. Here's some highlights from yesterday's race, and Richard talked through the basic rules for this one coming up. It was reversed yesterday with our AM drivers starting and the pros finishing the race.
You're absolutely spot on, and it was a challenging start for Jeffrey Ibrahim, the Prince behind the wheel of car 888, dropped it off the road and slipped back down to 8th place in the early running, but a really good recovery drive saw him come up through the field. The Audis were dicing. That was Liam Talbot making some moves. Tough day for Matt Stupas in car number 2, Gary Higgin and Paul Stokel in that car. They had an off. Both the KFC Audis, actually quite a bad day. And the brothers Kanduras, speaking of bad days, when there's smoke pouring from the back of your 650k Audi GT3 Evo, it's never a good sign.
Just been down, in fact, to Melbourne Performance Centre Racing and spoken with Lee Burley, the technical manager there. They had repaired that car of the Kanduras brothers, so we'll talk about that. We thought after their interview it may have been game over for the weekend. The Rosser team seem happy with that car despite that little moment there, and it's a case of polish it and send it for this race. Shane Van Gisbergen very calmly, very coolly stepped behind the wheel of the 888 entry, and that's because they had the time to do that in that pit stop. No need to rush it. Dramas for the KFC entry, no troubles up in front. The safety car period was timed superbly. Great recovery drive by the Prince. That helped set things up. Safety car was nicely timed, and Shane brought it home.
Yeah, the safety car worked perfectly for Triple Eight with JMR Racing yesterday. They were 11 seconds behind the Tanda Shahin Audi just before the pit stop window opened. So the 15-second advantage they had before the stops would have been setting up for a really good finish yesterday. But that's the way it goes. It's a new story today, Molly Taylor, and Triple Eight's got the job to do once again.
Well, Garth Tander, you're starting on pole position. There's been an update to the compulsory pit stop times. So things are looking pretty good from the outside. How are they feeling where you are?
Well, we're still going to do 10 seconds in the pit stop, but it's 5 seconds less than Shane today, so he had nothing in the pit stop yesterday. So it's part of GT racing. It is what it is. I think Reynolds and Bates is the car. They got 0 added to their pit stop time, so they'll be the car to keep an eye on. But looking forward to this one. It's going to be a good battle with Dave and Shane. It'll be on for the first couple of laps.
Well, Davey Reynolds, we're hearing he's on green tyres. Have you spoken to him already this morning, or are there any final last words that you'd like us to pass on?
I'll be happy with him to just slot into second place at turn 1.
All right, have a good one.
Thanks, Molly.
So I'm down here with Dave Reynolds. Garth sounds like he'll be pretty happy if he just slot him behind him after the start. He's calling you the hot tip. What's your reply to him?
Yeah, he would be happy. I hope he can slot behind me, but, you know, I'm on the outside. It's a rolling start. It's going to be hard for me to get around the outside, but I'm going to give it a go.
Yeah, perfect. Must be pretty happy that you don't have any additional time at the pit stop.
Yeah, pretty happy there's no time for us in the pit stop, but so it sort of puts the pressure on Tony to do his job, but, you know, he can do it. He can definitely do it if he hits his brake markers. He's got little, like, reminders of what to do during the race, so, yeah, we'll see how we go.
Very good, mate. Good luck.
All right, thanks, guys.
And Tony Bates is with me. Dave Reynolds just chatting there. I know you can't hear what he said, but he's saying you've got some brake markers, you've got some real clear direction in what's expected from you later on in this race. But from Dave, what was the message to him going out there? I believe it was, mate, just go for it, win it or bin it.
Yeah, well, we're not here to eat toasted sandwiches like we did yesterday. So yeah, we've got nothing to lose, and I just told him to put his elbows out and have a crack. So. Well,
yesterday was disappointing. You had that problem with the flat tyre. So that means, though, I believe you've got full sets of greens. You guys are ready to go, right?
No, we don't. Dave damaged some tyres in practice the other day, so I think we're on the same tyre strategy as everyone else.
Other people are spinning little lies, talking you guys up, mate. Hey, all the best out there, right?
There's a lot of pit bullshit going on, so.
that would never happen in motor racing, would it? Good work there, Tony Bates with Chris Stubbs, and we're joined by Michael Caruso in the commentary box. Now, firstly, mate, are you going okay after the TCR race?
Emotionally, no. I mean, yeah, look. It's not the first or the last time that we'll have heartbreak, but yeah, really it happens. I mean, the boys working pretty hard to get us back out there for the race, so there we go.
All right, let's focus on the Fanatec GT World Challenge Australia, powered by AWS. Great to have some fantastic GT cars back on track, back in action for season 2022, and it might look like a smaller field compared to, say, TCR and Trans Am or Porsche. We've got many more cars around the country, but some, Richard Craill, are being repaired in the wake of the Bathurst 12 Hour. We haven't because of shipping all around the world and the challenges with that, being able to get parts that we need and so on.
Yeah, so Garth Borden Racing still in the process of repairing their Mercedes AMG GT3 that they share with the Sheargold team. So that car will be back out later in the season. Grove Racing took their Porsche 911 GT3 from the 12 Hour, shipped it back to Porsche in Germany for a complete rebuild because it did get quite badly crashed on the mountain, plus an upgrade to full 2022 specification. They then went and raced the Spa 24 Hour. Unfortunately, young Matt Payne had a bit of a crash there as well, so they've got another repair job to do. So there's two really good cars initially. Triple Eight have got another Mercedes AMG in the shed, I believe, so they could expand cars. And the Harold's Racing team will bring their GT4 car back out at the next round of the championship with Sam Brabham among the driving lineup. So there's more cars to come, don't worry about that. But the ones we've got are fiercely competitive. And how about the top three starting this race? Tander, Reynolds, Van Gisbergen, like that a lot. Fraser Ross will start car 20. He shares with Liam Talbot. Paul Stokel, the Triple Australian Drivers Champion, starts the first of the KFC Audis. Mark Rosser did a really nice job yesterday. Rusty in the Catan car run by Team BRM. Solid drive. He's driving solo, so doesn't have to change drivers in the stop. So keep an eye on him. There's a pit stop advantage for those guys. But looking forward to this. Caruso, a really interesting race yesterday, but different conditions today. A lot more UV on the racetrack. Track temperature up about 5 degrees, I think, from where it was at the same race. So You've got to manage your tyres different, the race plays out differently. Lots of little variables that you need to take into account to manage a race like this.
Absolutely, and I'm actually looking forward to seeing the improvements that Audi have done overnight. We saw a lot of their cars a little bit tail happy. You know, there had a few moments. We saw a couple of the KFC cars spin out and a few other moments in the race. So today with that UV on the track, it's actually going to accentuate those features.
I've literally just come from the pit lane. Brad Schumacher was deep in conversation before he suited up with Tim Slade, going over final things from yesterday, how he could improve as a driver. We're in the starter's hands here, about to get things underway, and it is a star-studded lineup up the front of this field.
Tander, Reynolds, Van Gisbergen, three of the better racing car drivers around, lining up, ready for a rolling start. Fraser Ross will enjoy getting his elbows out. He's a Porsche champion in the past, lots of miles in GT cars. Watch for the red Audi. An hour on the clock. We're racing Fanatec GT World Challenge, powered by AWS at Queensland Raceway. And Tander aggressively covers his line into turn one. Van Gisbergen in the big AMG slots in behind Reynolds. Everyone else cleanly through. Feisty start though, as you'd expect. Garth Tander aggressive in holding his race lead. And the big Merc launches off the line. That thing's got so much bottom-end torque on a rolling start. You've got to get in front of it to turn one.
Absolutely. It does have a lot of torque. And I'm expecting Shane to push pretty hard here at the beginning of the race because this is his best chance to keep that gap close. He knows he's going to have a bit of a penalty when come to stop. So he needs to stay as close as he can, if not get by them.
Hand that car over to Prince Jeffrey with, hopefully, some kind of advantage to nullify the penalty for today, given that race win yesterday. It looked on this opening lap, particularly through turn two, to be a bit of a handful as it came through there for Shane. Bit of opposite lock. Tander from Reynolds, Van Gisbergen. That's the view back to the 888 AMG entry.
Oh, Reynolds working the rear already. You'd see those licorice lines coming out the back of it.
That's cool. Turn one, well over 200 k's an hour on approach, and it's a really quick corner in these cars with all the aerodynamic downforce that they've got, managing the bumps at the same time. So Tander with 0.7 on the opening lap and pressing on. Touched on yesterday, this is his first race meeting of the year. Sort of semi-retired life, but jumping back in the car and typical Garth Tander form. On it from lap one, as you would expect. And
in the meantime, keeping an eye on the kids racing program. I think they've been in the karts again this weekend, haven't they? And they've been busy with that stuff and really enjoying it. Sebastian's got this sort of trademark dance happening when he gets on the podium, and it's just laughing, that's for sure.
It's very good. I understand he's got the trademark Tander aggression though as well. Pretty certain he gets...
What a surprise.
Pretty certain he gets up on the wheel.
What aggression.
Hello to Leanne, who will be managing the kids at the go-karts this weekend. Champion race car driver in her own right. This is the back of Fraser Ross. We're looking back at Paul Stokel with Mark Rosser just behind them. Audi R8 LMS has been such a successful car, the most successful car in global GT3 racing since the Formula was introduced in the early or mid part of the first decade in the 2000s. Hugely successful at Mount Panorama. 3 wins in the Bathurst 12 out. Could have been 4 this year, but things went awry in the end, and Mercedes swept the podium. Mercedes having a really good time of it in global GT3 racing at the moment. A win at the Spa 24 Hour. Jules Dunon doing the business there amongst a really strong driver lineup. And in Fanatec GT World Challenge Asia, which runs the same regulations that you see here in Australia, as do the other domestic GT championships around the world, 888 have been going very well. A couple of wins to their credit already up there as well.
Second of the KFC entries in the hands of Matt Stupas here, who's currently in position number 7. You could see just a moment ago, I think, the view back from Fraser Ross's car to Paul Stokel, who's leading GTA at the moment in 5th outright. Their team telling me that they had a bit of a drama with the pit stop yesterday and lost around about 20 to 30 seconds. So that certainly cost the combo. That's Paul Stokel and Gary Higgin, who'll be jumping in that car later in this race.
Don't they sound good?
Yeah.
They just sound You love it. All the different engine notes as well, you know, just really good engine noise.
And when some of the other models come back, so you get the V12 Aston Martin, for example, they've recently changed to a twin-turbo V8, but the mixture of cars is awesome. So normally aspirated V10 mid-mount engine in the Audi R8, big 6.2-litre normally aspirated V8 hanging out the front of the Merc AMG, though. It's basically mid-mount. That bonnet's so long and the engine sits right back in the cockpit. But then the Ferrari 488 GT3, for example, twin-turbo V8. The V12 cars have been a feature in GT3 racing, and Porsche, as they always do, engine hanging out over the rear axle and that flat 6 normally aspirated howl. And the wonders that are the balance of performance, which is the way they manage the various platforms in GT3 racing, they all end up lapping within a few tenths of a second. It's pretty remarkable.
Jeffrey to the right of your screen, Roland Dane in the centre, and in between the pair of them you can probably just spot Jessica Dane in the background there. Keeping an eye, of course, on what Shane's up to. One of the little things that we learned from the pit lane before, Brad Schumacher, who we saw a moment ago in position 8, in going through the vision and looking back over yesterday's race very, very intently, very closely with Tim Slade. They were trying both in driver and car to dial out some understeer issues he was suffering at turns 2 and turns 5. But he was very open and honest and said it's not just the car. We've tried to tune it up, make it better for today. He said, but there's a lot in it from a driver standpoint too. Good guy to have in your corner, Tim Slade.
Absolutely. Good experience, particularly at a circuit like this. It's actually very technically demanding on a driver. Lots of time to be gained under brakes. The way you hit your apex, you know, do you V a corner, do you U it? And here he is, the man himself, no doubt watching on, passing that experience on.
And good for Brad Schumacher as well to own that it's not just the car. You could quite easily go, oh no, we need to change the car to make it better. And Brad's the middle car in shot here, the Kelso Electrical entry, and next to the sponsorship, he is from Bathurst Town. Very proud to represent that part of the world, especially when the circus rolls into town there a couple of times a year. But full credit to Brad. He could quite easily just blame the car, but he knows that there's work for him to do as an amateur driver. He doesn't do this for a living, to own up and go, no, I need to improve. And that's why you spend the money on getting someone like a Tim Slade along to help you out, driver coaching.
Absolutely, and I think that's credit to the AM drivers as well. You know, that they're off, you know, making millions of dollars during the week, and they're coming out here having fun, aren't they? That's the real game. That's why you've got the likes of Garth and, moment here as well.
Scott Taylor. Speaking of driver coaches, he's got Alex Davison in his corner, and Alex said did a really good job in qualifying Scott in this car and got what is a 2013 specification Porsche and contact with the Honduras Supermarkets Audi. It's a 2013 spec car, so it's almost a decade. Oh no, we've just been talking about Brad Schumacher, and he and Matt Stupers have got into each other, and they are well buried.
They're not getting out of there in a hurry.
And there's no doubt that will be a safety car. You don't drive out of the gravel traps generally here at Queensland Raceway. Bit of brain power down there at the Audi Sport Customer Racing. Oh, that's a strange one, Michael Caruso.
Looks like he's just missed his braking marker. Got in there really deep, misjudged it, grabbed the back of Super's car, wasn't it? Yeah, unfortunate. Particularly this early in the race as well.
And Tony Bates, you could see at the back of the shot, I think the drink bottle went flying. He was really frustrated because he wants track position in this race. They've got an advantage in their pit stop time when we get to that compulsory pit stop window. Now we're under the control of the Hyundai safety car. So the pit window's still away from opening yet. They'll have an opportunity to continue on, but I think Batesy, there he is, wanted to see a little bit more green flag running so they could maximise the amount of green flag time that you've got when your pro driver, the fastest driver, is behind the wheel. You want them to do the heavy lifting.
Absolutely.
This is the reaction from the team. That's a poor drink bottle. Eric Pender left of screen, the very experienced engineer, and Troy Russell was centre of screen. Troy looks pretty nonchalant at the best of times, but a slight grimace on his face. He's the man that heads up this entire massive Audi Customer Sport Racing outfit. Cool result for them in TCR a little bit earlier today with a big result.
When you look at, I mean, you talked about the brains trust in there, the volume of people, but very experienced people. I mean, you could see Paul Sepranich in the background, who looks after Tony Bates and Dave Reynolds. We know about the likes of Eric Pender with Yasser Shahin and Garth Tander. But I mean, when you look at the lineup of staff, it's pretty impressive.
It takes a lot of talented people to run these racing cars, especially GT3 cars, which are pretty technically advanced things. A lot of work required to maintain them and to engineer them over the course of the weekend. And there is the...
How do you think the discussion will be once they get back into the pits?
Between these two?
Yeah.
Tense.
What about the actual, the co-drivers standing back in the gap? They're only metres away from each other as well. This would be a great time to grab them for a little interview.
I think that's why these two are driving solo, so there's no co-drivers to box on.
That's right.
Which is a shame. From our point of view, it'll make great TV.
I'm apparently being told to be on standby to go out there and do...
Well, you do have a track record for...
Yes. I won't be doing that, Richard, not today.
Hello to Dave Stewart, the
yes.
Chief Safety Officer
best friend.
Motorsport Australia Race Control. If you don't know what we're talking about, you can go back to the Speed Series AU, use the hashtag, and you'll find that in the archives. It pops to the top of the search pretty quickly from Sydney Motorsport Park. Chris Stubbs.
Well, we've just been talking up the impact that Tim Slater's had with Brad Schumacher this weekend with a great result yesterday. Slatey, what was the feedback there? Was it an unforced error or what happened?
Yeah, the wrong kind of impact. No, Brad hasn't said much except for one word that starts with F. I mean, it's a bit hard to tell from this angle, as to where they were line-wise on the track. But, yeah, I mean, it looks like he's just got in a little bit deep and, basically run into the car in front and, taking them both out into the gravel. But like I said, it's a bit hard to see exactly where they were positioned.
Yeah, I know we're just watching a replay of it and you haven't been able to see a monitor as yet. But in terms of the instruction to him from yesterday, we believe there was some stuff about some understeer, a bit of car, a bit of him. What was kind of the direct idea that you wanted him to work on today?
I mean, it's been a little bit difficult for us this weekend, I guess, with some other tracks that we've been to previously. I drive the car at the test day and I guess I could teach Brad from some vision from me driving, whereas, we didn't do the test day here. And it's a little bit hard because he's the only one basically in that spec of car. All the Pro-Am cars are a couple of specs newer, so we're kind of competing just against ourselves. But yeah, there's a few little things. I mean, Brad's, a very good AM driver. He's good to work with. You can, teach him stuff and he goes out and does it. There's just a little bit of stuff, basically 2 and 3 and 6 that I think he could do a little bit better. And then also, I think we could make the car a little bit better for him. And it seemed to be, I think, maybe a little bit more speedier today. But obviously unfortunate to end up in the gravel trap.
I'm going to ask you a question that you're not going to like, but there's some talk about your future for next year. Mate, you've dabbled in a bit of TCR before. Are we maybe going to see you here or in a GT car perhaps next year?
I love sort of racing anything. I love my time at Bathurst in the TCR car, and I love my GT racing. So any opportunity that comes up, definitely jump at. Like I said, I love racing, love driving race cars. So no opportunities at the moment, but we'll see.
The phone's about to start ringing because that wasn't a no, so he didn't say he's not available for next year. Did you pick up on that?
Chris, you're on fire this weekend, mate. Well done. Keep it up. Big thanks to Eric Pender as well, who's given us a little bit of data. We should point out that at maximum speed on the run down to 6 there, these things are doing 213 Ks an hour, and they try and arrest the speed to get it back down to about 75 K an hour before they turn into turn 6. So great insights there.
It's really easy to overshoot as well. You can see as we watch the vision here, he's trying to line himself up to go deep and be around the outside, but obviously grab the back. That's Stupas, but
quite heavy contact as well through the back of the KFC Audi, and it's torn up the right front corner of the Kelso electrical car. So to everyone watching back in Bathurst, and I know there's plenty of them watching on. There, boy. out of the race. No further running for Brad Schumacher, which is a shame, and that was the reaction from MPC.
But we did see them hug when they got out of the car.
Yeah, so they did. They patted each other on the back. Great to see the Nissan Navara recovery vehicle. Bit of the Warrior pack on that. You get around that. New Zealand.
I have a Navara at home. I'm far from a farmer, but I don't have the Warrior pack, and I would like one.
So. Very much.
That's a bit of me. That's a bit of me.
The recovery team find their Navara's gone missing this afternoon when they pack things up. But ring Greg Rust.
There he is, Jamie Whincup.
Good to see J-Dub on site. He's had a bit of success in GT racing. Won the Bathurst 12-hour driving a Ferrari, Maranello Motorsport.
Very much with the managerial cap on these days, isn't he? And Declan Fraser's been here too. We should point out he's going to run at the Super Cheap Auto Bathurst, or run at the Bathurst 1000, I should say, in the Super Cheap Auto wildcard entry with none other than Craig Lowndes. So it's been great to have Declan here with us this weekend. Among others, there's been all sorts of people that have come to check out this race meeting.
Different sort of world for Jamie now, in that he needs to manage customers in his business, which is 888 Race Engineering, that he's now steering the ship of, and that includes this partnership with the Johor Motor Racing Group and Prince Jeffrey Ibrahim and his brother and the family that are heavily involved in this program. They're running 2 cars in GT World Challenge Asia and cars in the Australian Series. It's a huge, important part of the business that is 888 Race Engineering. They're not just a supercar team, they're more than that. So, yeah, he's got plenty of hats on now, Jamie Whincup. He's good in the GT car, as you would expect. Such a touring car-based career, but he jumped into one of these cars at the 12-hour for the first time and was instantly competitive. It's a sad sight to see these cars.
Very.
Any racing car, it must be said, to be limped back to pit lane on the back of a flatbed, but especially these things, which are just so beautifully built. All the carbon fibre in the world goes into these things, and it's a sad sight. But the recovery team have done their job. Down at turn 6, that's the scene of the incident, the field going past now, and we shouldn't be too far away from a restart here at Queensland Raceway.
Had a little shuffle yesterday in terms of the window, didn't we, for the compulsory stop in the wake of a safety car period. So we'll just keep an eye on that for Motorsport Australia Race Control. But we've got a little bit of time between now and when it's scheduled to open, haven't we?
Yeah, due to open 25 minutes into the race, so we've just ticked over 19 minutes in now. But there is some leeway for race control to manoeuvre that. Either way, I would imagine these teams will keep Tander, Reynolds and Van Gisbergen behind the wheel as deep into that stint as they possibly can.
You're a big fan of the slide rule, are you? Just, in an engineering sense, if we can move that...
Oh, look, you've got to play to your advantages. There's no doubt about it. And, I mean, look, they're getting paid the big bucks. You want them to do as many laps as they can, wouldn't you?
Yep. Oh, I think that's exactly the maths, though, isn't it? They're a pro for a reason. We're being told it will be green this time around, and there won't be a change to the pit stop window. So 20 minutes to go in, or 20 minutes into the race, 40 minutes to go. These guys will go as long towards that 35-minute mark as they possibly can before making that compulsory stop.
And as the lights get ready to go out, this is really important. In the last couple of laps, who kept their tyres warm, who's going to attack, and particularly in the front 3, it'll be interesting to see. This is a good opportunity now for the likes of Dave and Shane to make their move.
Safety car, leader to maintain 80. Safety car, accelerate away.
Word from Motorsport Australia Race Control. This is on board with Reynolds.
And this is an art. This is not as easy as just putting the throttle down. This is an art, lining yourself up, being in the right gear.
I love the fact the team's gone to pit wall to watch it with their own eyes, to judge the restart and get on the radio and communicate that go point. Where does Tander go? Just before turn 6 is the answer. So the Ben Motorsport Park Audi R8 leads the way. Tander, Reynolds, Van Gisbergen, Fraser Ross behind. He's weaving to get some tyre temperature in his Pirellis. You hear the car bottoming out over the bumps there at turn 1. The front splitter dragging on the ground. Like Mark Rosser under pressure from Peter Hackett in the Harold's Racing with Valenti Rosso entry. That's the second of the AMG GT3's Hackett having the big slide coming through turn 2.
The was chatting with the team about this. We know that Pete Hackett is so experienced in this sphere, but they are loving the fact that they've been able to step up with this car this weekend, and excited at the same time about the expansion to have that GT4 car running in coming events with Sam Bradman Dramas. We were just talking up Mark Rosser, weren't we? So was position 6, and that should give Pete Hackett that spot now. So up into 6th place for the driver we were just discussing.
Spoke to the team last night, and we gave the car a wipe down, and that was about it. It was a really solid day yesterday. You know, it's a good weekend at the office when that's all you need to do. So the leader's powering away.
Stokel's close to Fraser Ross here by the looks of it in the background too. There they are. So I don't know that Fraser at the restart got quite the jump of those in front. They were really smartly after Garth Tander at the jump there. But this is good for Paul Stokel, and we know how diversely successful and experienced he is in Australian motorsport. His co-driver and Gary Higgin getting ready there a moment ago in the Melbourne Performance Centre in the KFC gear.
Tell you what, Fraser Ross is put himself in a good position here. No doubt that the safety car helped them, but when Liam jumps in this car, we know how quick he can be, how one he's been with his car this weekend as well. So very good opportunity here for these guys.
That was Liam, and of course Charlie Robinson and the kids there in pit lane. Nice to have Charlie back with us, supporting Dad.
Sad sight right of screen. Great battle left. A couple of Audis going at it, and one of them being delivered back to the race team on a flatbed trailer. Stokel looking racy here. Fraser is an experienced guy. He's got a lot of miles. He won the Porsche Sprint Challenge Series in 2014. A lot of time in GT cars.
Hasn't been afraid of different marks, no. McLarens and all sorts. So,
and works in advertising, so he's pretty good at doing the sponsorship deals as well. This is Mark Rosser, turn 3 last time around in the Catan Team BRM Audi R8. Strange, a little bit too hot perhaps.
Yeah, look, we're only a couple laps in after the restart, so maybe just, again, the rear tyre temp just not up to temperature. And it's easy to do that, you know, you're coming in really deep, you're turning in as well. It's not just as easy as braking in a straight line and turning right. You're actually braking with a bit of trail brake, so a bit of steering lock onto the right-hand side, and that unloads the right rear tyre and can obviously force you around.
There's nothing out in front. Garth Tander 1.2 seconds now, and last time around set the fastest up of the race, and first driver into the 8s in race conditions with a 108.97. So just pulls that margin out over David Reynolds with Van Gisbergen in 3rd. That'll be James Kanduris suiting up the Superbarn team to take over from his brother Theo, who, the younger brother, is in 7th place. Good recovery after their dramas yesterday.
Replaced the wiring loom, manifolds and a few other bits and pieces, but the engine itself was sound. When we did some of the, when our pit crew were chatting with them yesterday, there was some concern that they would be out for the rest of the weekend. So great work by MPC, who naturally, with so many of these cars, have a raft of spares here to do that sort of stuff.
Jamie Winkup's viewing location sponsored by Pirelli. A couple of tyres and giving a nice elevated view over the circuit. There's Mark Rosser on the comeback trail. Is in the older model R8, the Generation 1 car. Was incredibly successful for the brand in GT3 racing, running in the trophy class. These two continue at it. It's a good little battle. Fraser doing a nice job holding on. They welcome G-Technic to this car this weekend, along with ongoing support from Shannons, who have been such an incredible supporter of Australian motor racing. Liam Talbot to jump into that car when the pit stop window opens, which it has done now. They've now got 10 minutes to dive in. There is Liam.
In the background, in the foreground, was Gary Higgin, who were talking yesterday, I think won KFC Franchisee of the Year when they had their big conference here on the Gold Coast in the past week.
What do you reckon they have for lunch down there?
Hey, listen, we've got to concentrate on this. Have you had any text messages from Ash? Is your car okay? What live update can we give?
I'm actually a bit scared to ask Ash how he's going with it. He was, you know, when there's a level of anger when you're quiet. Yes. Yeah. That was what it was. So I just
right.
I'm going to leave him in the zone to do it. So
you've become very good at reading body language after all these years, haven't you? I'll just leave you with that.
Into pit lane comes Mark Rosser. Kokinos in the lane as well, and Matt Stupas. Of course, after that drama in car number 23 in the lane too. So this is the Gen 1 Audi R8, first variant of this car. Old school car, but still quite competitive. And the Royal Australian Air Force, always competitive. They've been out and about. Their mates from the US are in town as well.
Some very cool things down there by the sounds of it at the moment. Just down the road at Amberley.
Yeah, there's a couple of B-2 Spirit bombers.
I know.
From the US Air Force just based there at the moment. And one of them flew over on Friday, and it's one of the coolest things I've ever seen in my life.
What a sight.
It was very impressive. You get a free air show when you come to Queensland Raceway as well. So with the pit stop times, just sitting stationary, so just to make that point, there's no real rush in these stops. They can sit there in the lane and just go through the process methodically. A couple of teams elected to put tyres on their cars yesterday. It seemed like that was doing the case. A little laps on the safety car already today, so they haven't worked the Pirellis too hard.
I'll tell you what, now Dave's got to get moving here because the gap's out to 1.5. He wants to stay as close as he can to give Tony as much time ahead as he possibly can get. Especially the speed that we saw from Yasser yesterday.
Batesy did a good job yesterday, you pointed out, to recognise a potential issue with a tyre that he thought, I think, from a pressure standpoint. He was a bit quiet in that interview pre-race as well, I thought, compared to normal.
He rides the emotions, Tony Bates, very closely, I think. Gets the full race face on and it gets very serious very quickly. But it's a good point you make, Caruso, with Reynolds. He needs to just manage this margin to Tander. He can't let that blow out too much. Otherwise, it makes the job that his co-driver has to do all the harder. Pretty consistent at 1.5 seconds right now.
And this could play into his hands. Doesn't take much to get held up by a bit of lap traffic.
It's down the inside of Russell. He's just come out of pit lane, so he's still trying to build tyre pressure back up into his Pirellis, having been sitting stationary for 120 odd seconds. And now it's up to Reynolds to do the job as well. We were talking yesterday, Dave talks himself down in these cars. He said, oh, I don't drive them enough, I'm not that quick, but I think that's just the professional race car driver coming out in him, which can be rare sometimes, let's be honest, but he is blindingly quick every time he's jumped into one of these machines. He's done a great job for Batesy so far.
Second gear, 75 k's an hour. Work up to fifth gear, 223 kilometres an hour on the entry to one. Just under 200 k's, tip it in at fourth gear. Into turn two, fourth gear as well. But about 146 kilometres an hour. Yasser Shahin standing by, bottom right of your screen. Working right up through the gearbox in the Audi to sixth gear. 240 kilometres an hour, big break. Down to second, 79 k's an hour here. Stop happening, Peter Hackett jumping out. 219 k's an hour, fifth gear. Through the centre part of the circuit, back to second, just under 100 k's.
Working hard through five. They've got 5 minutes to get into pit lane, Rusty, these two. So it'll be one more lap. And then potentially one more after that. It's a short lap around Queensland Raceway. At the pace they're going at the moment, to give you a lap time check. Tander, 1 minute 9.1. Reynolds, 1 minute 9.4. Van Gisbergen, a 109.7. So SVG giving away about 7 or 8 tenths a lap to the race leader at the moment. The AMG GT3 without the raw speed to go with the Audi R8. Reynolds hanging on to Garth though. And that sets up the closing stages of this race when the AM drivers get behind the wheel really tastily.
That'll be a fair old stoush too, Bates versus Yasser Shahin. I mean, you talked about how competitive Batesy is before. I mean, you as much, if not more, Yasser Shahin. So we've seen him do a very good job in pressure moments in the past 12 months or so, Yasser, haven't we?
Yeah, manages that pressure really well as the Harold's Racing entry leaves pit lane. So Ross Palakis, who's the managing director of Harold's, it's a lifestyle apparel brand based originally out of Melbourne, but now in Sydney as well.
just frothing about the step up to this latest machine too. He's really enjoyed it. So
it's a brand new car, Rusty. It arrived in the country a couple of weeks ago, and they only had about 300 Ks on it. Apparently, you need 500 Ks on them before the diff is, worn in and run in and ready to go racing, which I found really interesting. So they ticked that off yesterday. The car was actually got the tick of health and good to go. But they had a car in the country ready to go before the 12-hour. But I spoke earlier about Garth Wooden Racing and the Sheargold team. They had a crash in testing, wrote their car off. Mercedes AMG went to the Harold's team and said, can we get your car from you because this team needs it so they can run at Mount Panorama. So they sold their car straight away. And then Mercedes AMG promised them this car that they've got and said, don't worry, we will make sure you get a car in Australia in time for Queensland Raceway. So really cool to see the AMG customer racing team looking after their clients, making sure that one could race on the mountain and the other one, as planned, could come here to Queensland Raceway.
And a good pair of hands in Peter Hackett to have on board with that. Has raced these cars extensively over time and done a lot in the area of driver training for Mercedes AMG at all sorts of venues, from the likes of Phillip Island and Albert Park, and even across at Snow Farm in New Zealand out of Queenstown there, where they do some of their snow and ice driving. Very cool experience. So here's Yasser Shahin just waiting.
How nervous do you think they're going to get now? At this moment, knowing they're just about to jump in, the race is going to be in their hands.
Yeah, I think, having dealt with a lot of the AM drivers, the gentleman drivers, I reckon that's the biggest difference. Garth already unplugging himself, so you can bet that they're in this lap. It's the biggest difference between you guys that do this for a living and the AM drivers is the ability to manage the expectation and the nerves before it. And they get themselves so fired up and worked up. And the ones that can manage it the best tend to be the most successful at it.
Absolutely. And this is where the engineers will play a big role as well when they get out there in those first few laps. It's straight into the heat of the battle. They don't get to do the out lap and warm themselves up into it. It's just straight into it as fast as they can go.
Let's see if Garth comes in here. It did look like, as he went down the back straight toward turn 3, that he was perhaps taking off the hose for the helmet fan and gearing up to come in. Does he do that? Yes, he does. So the bend backed Audi into the lane.
Ooh, looks like Dave closed that gap considerably on the way in. And this will be tricky as well, won't it? I mean, both Audis parked right next door to each other, including SVG.
And 888 as well, so they're the first pit box in the run. So they've got to clear in and out. A little bit busier where Audi Custom Sport Racing are. So this car has the shortest pit stop time of this leading group. So all going well, it should be Tony Bates leading them out. Tander and Shahin should be next, and the longest time of them will be 888 Race Engineering entry, having won yesterday. They get 15 seconds extra time added to their list.
And it's actually quite a weird feeling in the commentary box here because there's hardly any cars on the track.
The top 6 all in pit lane.
Yeah.
We're down 2 cars already. So it's 108 seconds for the Audi of Yasser Shahin and Garth Tander. 98 seconds for the Tony Bates, David Reynolds car. Meanwhile, car 888, 113 seconds. They've got the longest pit stop time of all. Remember, that's based on the results from yesterday. So attempts to level the playing field after race 1.
Fraser Ross helping his driver, Liam Talbot, get into that car as well. They're P4 in the queue when they came in for the series of stops. These guys trailed a little bit.
Oh, no. Oh, there we go.
Bit of a delay there for Tony Bates. Just parked in there with the Audis.
And this would feel a lifetime waiting for you to get that call to get out, wouldn't it?
So there's Shahin. So he's back to second place.
Look at this here.
It's just for track position. So that's Liam Talbot now behind the wheel of the G-Technic car, and they've jumped 888. So that long pit stop time for Prince Jeffrey Ibrahim, who's now behind the wheel of this car. He's got the job to do. So that'll be a net P4 when this all shuffles out. It's a big drive from Ibrahim yesterday after that challenging opening lap, but he pulled it together really well and got a heap of time back.
Really good job to do that. And this has been another challenge for him now. So character building, because he's got to get his eye in as soon as he can and put those laps together. Particularly as the tyres cool off, we saw everybody struggle to just get up to speed and make sure that you know, have that confidence in the tyre, in the car.
We saw it in that beautiful profile piece that Chris Stubbs did with Prince Jeffrey prior to the start of this race. I mean, he is seriously into it. Family have some history in motor racing. I mean, this is not just kind of a fun pastime or hobby for him. And he was confirmed as a Red Bull athlete at Phillip Island earlier in the year, which was, I mean, he was so proud of that moment. Now, is
that Yasser?
That was Yasser. Was he able to keep it on the island? It was awkward as it came through 6, wasn't it?
He was. He crossed the line. Check this out. The Ben Motorsport Park car led early, now second. And that was the moment that Michael Caruso was going oh about. Almost all the wheels off the road. Wow. It shows how hard they're pressing. That's the outlap. That is the outlap. Fabian Coulthard. It's all going on in GT.
All right, guys, I'm down here with my Kiwi mate, Shane Van Gisbergen. That was, a pretty solo run, but what are your thoughts?
Oh, we just followed each other around. It was good for the first 3 corners, then I knew that would be it. So just followed everyone, really. But now the race starts. Unfortunately, we get a big penalty because of yesterday. So hopefully, Eman can make it up. He's been going really well.
You reckon we've got the pace to try and take it to the front too?
Yeah, but we're 15 seconds behind now, so we'll see.
No worries. Good luck for the rest of the race.
I want to wish him well too for the World Rally Championship round happening in New Zealand end of September, beginning of October. He's been doing some amazing things at the wheel of a Skoda, and as I said, very recently won the opening 3 stages of a round of the New Zealand Rally Championship in Hawke's Bay. So it won't necessarily have the grunt to take on the factory front running teams, but he will impress, I think, over there in that, no doubt about it.
Oh, based on the year that Shane Van Gisbergen's having, he's going to win the thing. He's won everything else. Quite remarkable.
Now, if we look at the times, there's a gap of around 5 seconds from Tony Bates to Yasser, and they seem to be within a couple of tenths of each other, so he's doing a good job.
Molly?
Dave Reynolds, you look fresh as a daisy. We saw you and Garth Tander having a pretty good chat there when you got out of the cars. What was that about?
What we're talking about? Why is he so old and so fast? No, he goes good for a commentator. Obviously, he dropped me by a couple of seconds. I just didn't have the pace today. We changed the car a bit and too much understeer, but it might be okay for Tony. So now I've handballed him and we're in the lead thanks to all the pit stops. So, we'll give it to him. But he hasn't done a lot of racing lately. Like, a lot of the guys did a test day a few weeks ago, and if we did that, I reckon he'd be in better shape.
And he had some issues with slow puncture yesterday, but from a tyre perspective, we saw yesterday some people struggling with some overheating tyres. How's everything from that side?
Yesterday we punched a tyre, which is quite rare. You hardly punch a tyre these days. But, in that stint, I don't know, our rears were too low on the dash, and they were just probably, 0.1 bar. I don't know what that equates to, probably 1.47 pounds or something, not much, but
we'll get the calculators out.
Get the calculator, the old quackulator. But yeah, so it did change the balance of the car, and it wasn't the easiest thing to drive, but we handed it back in second and won the pit stop. Didn't win the pit stop, but it played out. I don't sound like I won something today.
Well, there's all still to play for. We'll let you keep watching Tony and cheering him on.
Yeah, thanks very much. See you guys.
Thank you.
Always good to have him here with us trackside. So James Kadouris in the Superbarn entry rejoins. Let's have a look here at what happened.
Oh, that was a very similar incident to Michael Rosser at turn 3 a couple of laps ago. Rosser just in behind, watched that unfold.
Just looks like he's lost the rear on the way in, maybe locked the rears a little bit. And it's an easy corner to do it again. It's another one where you can't just brake purely in a straight line. You have to load it up by having a bit of lock on to turn left. But the Audis have been tail happy, haven't they, all weekend?
We've got a motor race on here because Yasser Shikin is hauling in Tony Bates. 1:11.9 for that car last time by, 1:10.3 for that one. And even quicker is Liam Talbot in third. He is flying 1:10.1. He's the quickest car on the racetrack right now. So Chris Stubbs, this is all building to a really good finish.
Sure is. We are set for an absolute cracking finish to this race, but the start of it was a good one for Garth Tander. Talk us through the timing of the safety car. That hurt, didn't it?
No, we go all the way back to the start of the race. Shane had a look down on one side, knew he was going to do that, so I had to block him, and then Reynolds was trying to go around the outside. So it was good fun, actually, really good fun, that first couple of corners. But our car's so good, really, really good, way better than yesterday. So credit to the guys. And then, we built a pretty good gap, and then I needed a 15-second gap on Reynolds because of the pit stop time difference, but I was never going to pull 15 in him in a stint. but that safety car right in the middle there hurt us. I think we had it out to about 5 and we got it close to 5 again at the end. So 10 would have been pretty good. Would have made it a little bit easier for Yasser to try and chase Batesy down.
His lap times at the moment are good, so all the best. Hang in there.
Thanks, mate.
Down here with Fraser Ross. Good opening stint. Those first few laps looked pretty exciting.
Oh, mate, it's dicey on cold tyres. I'm just trying to survive and not die, to be honest. But once we got some temperature up there, our race pace improved and whatnot. So safety car obviously helps us. I think we jumped the SVG car in the pit, so Liam's running third and lapping quite well. So hopefully we can bring it home strong.
Yeah, car's in safe hands with Liam, and hopefully he does a good job. Good luck for the rest of the day.
Thanks, mate. Cheers. Thank you.
Well, this is the battle for the lead, thanks to Fabian Coulthard. Yasser Shahin down the inside of Tony Bates, who gets squeezed down to the apex, but the Ben Motorsport Park car has reeled in the race leader. The last 2 laps especially, last time round he was a second and a half faster, and that margin has disappeared, and now it's in reverse because car number 1 is back in front of the motor race. And Liam Talbot is flying. Oh, the Superbarn car, another off. This time it's pulled to a halt. Now that's on the little link road between turn 3 and turn 6, the Clubman circuit here at Queensland Raceway. I wonder what race control will do with that. They'll determine if that's in a safe position or whether they might throw a yellow for that. Interesting little decision, but either way, the race building, this guy, quickest driver on the racetrack. Liam Talbot's just done a 109.5. He's going as quickly in this as the pro drivers were in the leading cars before the pit stop. So the G-Technic car is flying, and he's not only catching Yasser Shahin, he's catching Tony Bates very quickly. So this is the kind of scenario we want to see in these races, gents, is where the car in third place, with the way the pit stop times work, is the quickest at the end. And you get the field all concertinaing up together. Mighty drive so far from Liam Talbot.
Absolutely. With roughly 14 to 15 laps to go, he could very well do it with that type of pace.
It'd be a huge drive, especially to catch the reigning champion in Yasser Shahin.
You'd be surprised how much help having the family here does. We saw yesterday Tony D'Alberto getting his first win. The family here to support him.
Look at this here.
Tony very deep at turn 6 and ran the car wide, compromises the entry and the exit. David Reynolds watching on. It's moments like this, Carus, where your engineer sort of becomes a life coach more than talking about the car, isn't it? Okay, mate, eyes forward, you're okay, you've got this. How many times do we hear that kind of conversation? Nothing technical about the car, but Talbot all over Tony Bates, who is such an experienced racer in his own right.
It's going to get him here. This is setting up, potentially down at 3. Has a look. Window of opportunity presents, and he's there. Liam Talbot up.
Oh, no! Oh, he kept it on the racetrack just that little bit of extra concrete that's been laid on the exit there at turn 3. Saved Talbot. He committed hard, but it hasn't paid off, and now he's got to do all that work again.
Fraser Ross.
That's his co-driver. He's loving that. It must be so tempting to do that down there, Carus, when it's such a tempting braking zone. You're going in at warp factor 9, and it must be so tempting. Oh, I can go a little bit deeper, surely.
Absolutely, and credit to both of them as well. Even Tony, I mean, to break that deep, you know, he obviously forced him to make the move rather than, you know, just back out of it and roll over and let him go.
On reflection, looking at the replay, it was almost like, yeah, okay, if you want to do that, you can knock yourself out.
Here we are back again for round 2.
I wonder how Charlie Robinson's going in pit lane watching this. A nervous spectator at the best of times, watching Liam go racing as well as he does it. He was a late starter to motorsport. Liam Talbot jumped into a radical and was very competitive. So try the outside this time around, and he'll get good drive off that corner. How much room does Tony Bates give him on the exit? Not much at all. A little bit of contact.
He's hanging on to this second place. I love it.
Your OCD kicking off, I know, about the window there. That's the...
Imagine how much faster he could go.
That's the film they put over to tear off on the front glass of these cars. It's a great fight. And every lap that he stays behind Tony Bates, it's a second or two a lap for Yasser Shahin out in front. And that margin now up to 8 seconds.
Bates is defending hard. Fair play to him as well. Into turn 1 again. We've got under 14 minutes remaining in this final race of the weekend for these guys, but our coverage has so much more still to come. Stick around, whatever you do. Final race of the weekend will be a highlight for Super Cheap Auto TCR Australia. Michael Caruso has been racing in the Alfa Romeo, and hopefully he will be in the thick of things again while the Ash Seawood team work away. And Liam goes ultra deep again. Can he pull that car up? Goes wide again. Goes wide again. Look at Fraser. He's gone from smiling to...
Oh, he's off. More off this time. Gee, that was feisty.
What a battle.
This is great. It might be between two Audi R8s, but it is fiercely competitive.
9 seconds now to Yasser, sorry.
No, both cars run out of the same stable, Rusty, so... And now he goes around the outside of Tony Bates into turn 6. What about this time? For Liam Talbot on contact. And there's damage to the Bates car. One hit too many. Fraser Ross can't believe it.
And while all this is happening, look right there in your back of the screen.
A podium very much in the offing for Prince Jeffrey Ibrahim and Shane Van Gisbergen.
Look at the behaviour of the Bates car now. So that damage is affecting the performance of that car. Struggled to get it turned at 1. So here we go. Let's set this story up. So big, deep dive from Liam Talbot. They come out of 3, then this.
So that was the first bump on the exit of 3. And then it happened again. And there's the 888 with JMR car going down the inside of Tony Bates. So he's now off the podium.
It's wounded, that car, isn't it? Yep.
And it doesn't take much. There's lots of aero in these cars, and a little bit of aero, particularly on that left front, is really going to unbalance it, take away that front grip. But you've got to give it to him. I mean, he did not want to give that up at all.
The thing understeering on the exit of turn 5, just plowed straight ahead. Yeah, it had the arms out. Tony cut his teeth in Commodore Cup racing, one mate Commodore Cup series, which was a great category, and it was famous for WWE style racing sometimes. It was pretty frenetic stuff, but you had to have your elbows out there, and Batesy was very good at it. Unfortunately, there was just one bit of contact too many, and a really feisty battle with Liam Talbot. So now that order's cleansed, let's see what the lap time difference is between our race leader and Liam Talbot. But yeah, so Jeffrey Ibrahim, he's got some mojo happening at the moment and some serious performance in this car. And the margin just 1.7 seconds to Liam Talbot in second. He's got the eyes on.
I tell you what, as a race car driver, there is nothing funnier than watching the lights flash. Like, hey, I'm coming up after you. When you see that in your rearview mirror, I'm right, mate. Yeah. I'm doing the same thing as well. I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing, and you just keep doing what you're doing.
See, from a spectator and a commentary standpoint, we live for that. We go, this is great. He's fired up. He wants to, but clearly the reaction inside the car is very different. Thank you, mate. I love that insight.
Yeah. Great middle sector. Prince.
Yeah, really. In fact, all.
Here we go. This is for this is the replay of the bodywork ultimately when they came together at 6.
Oh, probably 2.5 grand's worth of carbon fibre just floating off down there at turn 6. Fortunately, that team's the spare parts provider for all the Audis in GT racing, so that will bolt back on. It's a big unit, a big front splitter. Amazing piece of engineering. The carbon fibre work in these cars. This on board with Tony Bates. What a sizable hit from in-car. Car back down to second gear. Talbot trying to sweep around the outside. And Fraser just expressing himself somewhat there for that little piece of contact, but no damage to his car. The G-Technic entry with Talbot behind the wheel going along nicely. The margin 11 seconds to the race leader. I fear from an outright lead point of view, for Liam Talbot's sake, that battle has probably shot his chances of catching Yasser Shahin, because Yasser's got that margin over 10 seconds and it's just stayed there So a 10-0 last time round for Yasser, a 9-9 for Talbot, and 9-9 also for Jeffrey Ibrahim. So the pace is still very, very hot, but whereas Liam was taking half a second a lap out of them before, now it's mere tenths. Although a bit of traffic will certainly help his cause. Yasser gets stuck behind the car.
They leave nothing on the table, do they?
You're very aware of intentions, aren't you, in these races?
I mean, with 8.5 minutes to go and a 11.5 second race, that's exactly my thoughts, Scarf. Still, you've got it in the bag, just bring it home.
That is classic Chad of that. No, walk away.
And I think it just underscores the competitive drive of Yasser Shaheen, doesn't it? Like in those moments they've coached and sort of worked on just calming and settling all that sort of stuff down, but he's 10.8 seconds is the margin now over these two.
Just a bit of wheel work for Liam Talbot at turn 6. So through all that battling, I wonder if it might have just overheated the Pirelli tyres on board the G-Technicar a little bit. And Ibrahim going with him, 1.2 the margin. Absolutely identical lap times last time around to the 10th of a second. So it's a really good arm wrestle between the two, and they did take a bit of time out of the leader. Yasser with that lap traffic up at turn 3 in a moment on the inside of that corner. This has been a really impressive drive. It's been fun to watch the progression, hasn't it, over the last 18 months especially, of Jeffrey Ibrahim and how he's gained in experience and confidence, and the more miles he gets, the better and better he becomes in one of these cars. Came down to Australia during the peak of the pandemic.
Spent a lot of time here, didn't he?
Basically moved here so he could continue to race and learn. And not above driving anything. He has raced here in a Hyundai XL Enduro. So it's just about getting seat time, getting lap time, and building that level of experience. And it's drives like this that show that it's paying off.
Absolutely.
And you pointed out before, Bruce, very good in the middle sector. Just done a personal best for the whole race in the middle sector.
And that's the kind of stuff that won't escape the likes of a Roland Dane or a Jamie Whincup and those guys. He's immersed himself in this, and now we're seeing the benefits of it. So great drive right across the weekend, even with the little moments yesterday. The recovery that he did by the time the pit stop came around was all important in that end result.
109.6 last time around. Plays at 9.9 for Liam Talbot, so he took another 4 tenths out.
With the lap traffic coming up.
Game on. Second and third up for grabs.
We thought this race was going to be anything boring.
It's been good, hasn't it? Great fights all the way through the field. Quality field over quantity this weekend. The numbers will come. And how aggressive is Talbot with the KFC Audi in front?
Oh, no.
And this is really difficult. It's costing him huge amounts of lap time. There's the flashing lights that Michael Caruso loves so much. He is right up close to the Audi now. This is for the final step on the podium.
Great job. Great job. Was looking for the over-under treatment, wasn't he? Remember me? I love it.
Cool battle between two of the great GT3 brands and two completely different styles of racing car that produce their speeds in different areas and behave differently, look and sound different, but ultimately lap within hundredths of a second of each other. And that moment with the traffic cost Liam Talbot 0.5 of a second.
And help give Yasser Shaheen more breathing space too, over 11 now. 11 seconds up in front.
This is the point now where Yasser can conserve. But how many times, Chris, have you seen drivers take the foot off and start bringing errors into the driving? If they're not driving absolutely flat out, that can lead to some mistakes coming in.
Yeah, you're not wrong. And that's all about the concentration. I mean, it's one thing sitting in the car, pushing the pedals and turning the steering wheel, but it does require a lot of concentration at this track.
There's a shot down there in the 888 bunker. The person closest to screen was Simon Hodge, who won the Australian Drivers' Championship in Formula 3 cars in 2014. He's one of a group of young drivers that have become engineers and are now down there at 888. Martin Short, the other, look after their Super 2 program, but also run their GT cars. And 888 bringing young drivers through, but also young engineers as well. It's cool to see young people getting that opportunity to work behind the scenes in the sport.
Bit of an ethos in the organisation, isn't it? Even when, you know, Sam Michael for a time, you know, was involved there and about inspiring and helping those young engineers.
That buzzing noise you can hear is the air compressor that drives the pneumatic air system that whacks the gear shifts through this semi-automatic gearbox, paddle shift gearbox.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen down into turn 6 because the speed that the Prince has in the middle sector, that's going to be his best chance. You can see him so closely to the back of him through there.
The Audi traditionally a better car through the really high speed stuff, but the Mercs love the slower speed, and here's some more lap traffic playing a role. The older spec Audi R8 does the right thing and runs wide, but it does compromise Talbot's entry onto the Dick Johnson front stretch here at Queensland Raceway.
Fraser Ross looking on from the pit wall, watching his teammate Liam Talbot. Very different looking, very different sounding race cars.
Fraser, one of the more laconic people you're likely to meet. Right up until the point he's watching his race car go to work, and then he becomes full-on, passionate, fiery enthusiast racing car driver watching on. Liam's doing a superb job, but Prince Jeffrey Ibrahim driving the wheels off car 888 as well. It's a great fight. Tony Bates has dropped more than 25 seconds off the back of this group with the damage to the front of his car. Mark Rosser back up to 5th after that spin earlier. Just did the fastest lap of his race on lap 40. So clearly good speed in that car towards the end. Yasser 10.2 seconds, the race lead. Winding down to the end of what's been a really entertaining race. Race 2 in round 2 of the Fanatec GT World Challenge Australia. Long time between rounds. Gets busier from here though, and they conclude the season at Mount Panorama at the Super Cheap Auto Bathurst International.
Cool cars going to some very cool venues between now and the end of the year, and hopefully a few more of them will be coming out of the garages around the country. We talked about some of them being repaired after the 12-hour. There's a few competitors overseas as well that no doubt will be back in action in this. Not long until the clock counts out. Can Prince Jeffrey Ibrahim find a little something? Find a way by Liam Talbot here. Looks like Yasser has just kind of managed, maintained that gap of 10 seconds.
One of the joys of Queensland Raceway is you can look out the window, you can see the racetrack, and I was just getting a bit of a visual to see what the next car up the road is, and it's Ross Polakis in the Harold's Racing AMG. He might be just far enough in front to not influence this battle, but he's the next car to go a lap down that Liam Talbot will get to. But I don't think it will play a role. This will be the last lap of the race. It's been very entertaining, but a really complete performance by the Ben Motorsport Park side of the Audi Sport Garage. Anchored by Garth Tander at the start, and then Yasser Shahin did the job. He passed Tony Bates and built that margin.
Hearing, I think, from Ken Collier, Motorsport Australia Race Control, might be 2 5-second penalties coming for car 24. So just to make things tougher for Tony Bates and for David Reynolds, we'll confirm that for you, but some suggestion that there's some penalties coming the way of that car. Maybe as a result of the contact with Liam Talbot, not sure.
So this battle continues, it winds down. It's been a great race, a great weekend of GT racing back at Queensland Raceway for the first time in a decade. And the win today will go the way of Yasser Shahin and Garth Tander. Mercedes on top on Saturday, but today it's all about Audi. They'll be 1-2. This was a cool battle though.
Absolutely.
And what a good drive from Liam Talbot in the end. He fought hard for that.
That was a great race. I mean, to give it to everyone in the team. They did the pit stops well. The drivers did their part as well, and I really enjoyed that battle. I thought that was one of the best GT races I've seen.
Here's the KFC car crossing the line. That's Gary Higgin. Shares that with Paul Stokel. Solid day for them after a few offs yesterday. It blotted their copybook. And there is Liam Talbot celebrating that with the officials down at turn 3. Really solid drive, second place. At one point, he was the quickest car on the racetrack, and had it taken him less time to get through Tony Bates, I wonder if there was enough in that Audi to get to the lead. In the end, it didn't matter. A complete performance today from the Ben Motorsport Park car. They won by just under 10 seconds with Liam Talbot and Fraser Ross second. Superb drive from Prince Jeffrey Ibrahim and Shane Van Gisbergen to get home in third. Bates and Reynolds, well, damage at the end. They carried that to the line and finished fourth, with Mark Rosser home in fifth and winning the AM class. A really solid day for Scott Taylor. Takes the trophy battle and finishes 8th outright. Cool racing in the Fanatec GT World Challenge, powered by AWS. This is how it played out on a beautiful afternoon in southeast Queensland. Great fight between the pros at the start. This was the biggest moment of the race, and Michael Caruso, a really unfortunate incident for Brad Schumacher.
Yeah, and it's good to see the guys shaking hands. You know, he knows that was unintentional, and Garth just went on and did what he did. You know,
Garth Tander does, really.
That's exactly right.
These were the pit stops, so there was an advantage to Liam Talbot and Fraser Ross. They jumped the 888 car, had extra pit stop time on account of winning yesterday. Tough old day for Superbarn Supermarkets Racing. James Kanduris and Theo both had spins throughout that one. And then this was the key pass for the lead. Decisive, aggressive, down the inside. And car number 1 wrestles the race lead away from Tony Bates. This battle, though, it wasn't quite so simple. Talbot launched an attack, ran wide. And the G-Technic car had to go about it all over again. He tried that 2 times at turn 3, and then this at turn 6. And finally, after coming to blows a couple of times, there was damage to the front of the Bates car. And that then allowed Prince Jeffrey to get through as well. And what was a really good performance from a man from Johor, part of Malaysia, who's forging a really good GT career. But in the end, speaking of GT, it was he and Yasser Shahin who did the business in race 2 in Fanatec GT World Challenge. Powered by AWS, this series returns at Sandown later this year. Chris Stubbs, always good racing in the GTs.
It was good racing and a good weekend overall for our drivers here from the 888 entry. I'll start with you, Shane, who was first in the car. Give us your take on that outcome. A good weekend, 2 podiums, the win yesterday.
Yeah, it was awesome. Again, I don't feel like I did much. I just drove around, but Prince Jeffrey here, what an awesome job. Good pace, and then to match a guy like Liam at the end there, who's a pretty good driver. Like, it was really cool. Some good passes, got close, and yeah, stoked.
Some pretty nice words there from Shane. It was a great drive from you, really putting the pressure on in that last stint.
Yeah, I tried my best. I mean, we only got a few laps left, and I tried to be as consistent as I can and try to lap Liam, but he was much quicker than me and tried a few times, and he closed the gap on the last turn. But no, it was fun to have that battle against the Audi.
It was a nice collection of points for your weekend. Well done.
Thank you.
Prince Jeffrey, we'll move on down and see if we can find our guys from second place today. It was Liam Talbot and Fraser Ross. Fraser, you had to ride the emotions there of that last stint. It got pretty willing out there.
Yeah, it got pretty wild woolly with all the Audis, but it was, you know, good. I just sort of drove around to make sure he got a good car for Liam. He did an awesome job. I mean, he held off the Prince there, did an awesome job, and obviously to get through Bates somewhat cleanly was he did a good job.
You say somewhat cleanly. Liam goes, oh, tell us about the battles out there.
I got no idea what was going on out there. I got the speed, I'm trying to get through, and every time I don't know what was going on out there. I just had to try extra hard, and the other guy was putting up too much of a fight.
Well, you certainly got the result at the end of the day. Well done.
Thank you.
We'll move on down to our winners. Garth Tander is already out of his race suit. He's got a flight to catch, so he said he would have been out of here, except the fact that they won meant he had to stay. So we'll get to you in a second, Garth, but Yasser, outstanding drive out the front there. Well done. Your thoughts on that victory?
Thanks, bud. Look, I thought it was going to be a lot harder, but he managed to give me the car in a great spot even after a safety car. And the first few laps, I think, were decisive. We just had to go out and drive the wheels off at the first 10 laps and get ourselves a buffer, and we did. So, great.
First out lap, you certainly were pushing every inch of the track there. You gave us a moment. Garth, your reaction to that, a nice win, and thank you for staying for us.
I didn't see it, Stubby. I was getting changed in the truck. But Yasser always does an awesome job and did it for us again. So lost a bit of time through the pit stop cycle, obviously with the penalty from yesterday's race. But car was so good today, really, really good. So managed to open up a bit of a gap and make it a little bit easier for Yasser, but he always brings it home. So real credit to the team, and thanks to Yasser for sharing the car with me.
Job well done, both of you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Well, Tony Bates, we got everyone here. That was a very entertaining battle that you had with Liam. Talk us through that.
Look, you know, I've been travelling overseas, no test days. pretty silly thing. I'm just going to rock up and be as quick as guys I'm normally as quick as. Yeah, they said either let him through and get a place or have some fun. So I chose some good TV coverage. I got some relatives and friends watching back home and thought, stuff this, let's put it on for them. So that was good, it was spirited. I think I got a 5-second penalty, but that's all right, I had fun.
And we saw the damage to the front of the car. How difficult was that to drive with?
I lost all my aero, so I could tell the boys were driving away from me. Once you lose your aero, you're pretty stuffed in these cars. So it was pretty hard car to drive the last 10 laps, but that was good. Put the elbows out like I told Dave to do, so had to follow my own advice.
And you've got your family here. What do you say to Dad after that performance?
Yeah. You didn't make it on the podium, but you still did a good job.
Oh, that's so good. And Dave Reynolds, you didn't have any headsets on, but if you did have headsets on in that moment, what would you have been saying to Tony?
I don't think I was going to encourage him anymore.
Oh, well done, guys. Thanks for putting on a show.
No worries, thank you.
Thanks, Molly. Love the words of encouragement from the kids down there as well. Great to see a really cool GT race to cap off their program here at Queensland Raceway in front of a terrific crowd and beautiful conditions for the Speed Series presented by Shannon's. You're watching it live and at break free on Stan Sport. The motorsport doesn't stop here though, because there's so much coming your way, whether you're a fan of a late night or an early morning, because tomorrow morning you can get into some IndyCar action, but there's some World Rally Championship as well. So the roller coaster ride continues, and it's the iconic Rally Finland that will provide all the twists and turns in the title race. And it starts today from 4:30 p.m. right here on Stan Sport. Do not miss a second of that action. And just to remind you, Scott McLaughlin on pole in the IndyCars in Nashville. Let's go to the podium for GTs. Here's Greg Rust.
Richard, thank you. Welcome everybody to the Speed Series presented by Shannon's Podium. It's time for the trophy presentation for the Pro-Am class in round 2 of the Fanatec GT World Challenge Australia, powered by AWS. Delighted to welcome to the podium to present our round trophies for the weekend, Mr. Brad McLaughlin from Gara Tyres Australia. In third place this weekend, from CoinSpot MPC, ladies and gentlemen, Liam Talbot and Fraser Ross. Liam walking to the podium with some very special family members there with him for the celebrations. We move to second place for the weekend now. Our congratulations to 888 Race Engineering, second for the weekend. Please be generous in your applause for Prince Jeffrey Ibrahim and Shane Van Gisbergen. We'll get Brad to hand that trophy over to our second place getters here at Queensland Raceway. Now let's welcome to the podium your winners representing the Bend Motorsport Park. It's Yasser Shaheen and Garth Tander to collect the trophy. Yasser, I think Garth's had to head to the airport already. Put your hands together, folks. A quick photo for the media that have gathered here. Drivers, congratulations. The champagne is there. The podium is yours.
Well done, Yasser Shaheen and Garth Tander, winners there. Garth already bolting. He needs to get himself back home. But wow, what a day so far, Fabian Coulthard. 2 more races to come. The Trans Am Series coming out right now, and of course, Super Cheap Auto TCR. For the Turtle Wax Trans Am, it's been interesting to follow the story over the last couple of rounds, and especially this weekend. Now, we know that they're big and they're ready to rumble and they're great to watch and so much action. But there's been an incredible championship battle going on between Nathan Hearn and Owen Kelly, and currently Nathan has a 13-point advantage.
Yeah, it's been a real seesaw, so it keeps it exciting. You know, I'm glad that it's close to the top because, you know, if there's a runaway points leader, you know, you lose that drive and demand to have that, you know, first place Podium championship trophy. So, yeah, it should be a good one.
In a series like this, how do you battle that desire to want to go and swap paint and bash panels versus consistency and get points?
I think once you put your helmet on, it's every man for themselves. And yeah, it's in the back of your mind, but you also want to go out and win the race. So I think it'll be on for young and old.
Conditions are absolutely perfect. The cars making their way around right now. 28 entrants in the Turtle Wax Trans Am Series for this weekend. It's been outstanding. Don't forget the final race of Super G Porto TCR Australia coming up. And for our viewers on Stan Sport, make sure you're still part of our viewer poll. With the Bathurst International heading our way in November, we want to know from you, which IndyCar driver do you think we could pluck out of the IndyCar Series and take up to Mount Panorama, Nashville, Tennessee, the race coming your way on Stan Sport tomorrow morning with Scotty McLaughlin pole position. So who did you land on?
I landed on my mate Scotty, so he obviously is in the prime position for the race tomorrow, but I'd like to see Scotty back here in Australia.
Plenty of votes coming through for Scotty and for Colton Herter, by the way. All right, let's get to the grid here for the Turtle Wax Trans Am Series.
I'm down here with Jet Johnson. He's been having a solid run this weekend, mate, but do you think you've got enough to get it done in this last race?
Look, I think if I keep doing what I've been doing, I'll be able to finish off with a solid result. But it's got to be smart and keep out of the way of any accidents, and just see what happens.
And I guess you're very familiar with this track, mate. You've done plenty of laps around here. What's your plan heading into turn one?
Yeah, I think try not to get hung out too far on the outside, and trying to tuck in behind Nathan as quick as I can, and follow him from there.
Best of luck, mate.
Thank you.
Well, Lockie Dalton, you had a bit of an up and down start to the season, but solid result so far this weekend, so it must be good for the confidence.
Yeah, I know we've always had a fast car. It's just about me managing it. We've had rounds where luck hasn't gone our way, but we've always been fast. So, as long as we keep moving forward, learning new things, I think, we'll be very strong.
We really enjoyed that battle that you had in the last race with Owen Kelly.